Game 2 of the GISTUMONYA tourney. We've taken a 2-5 loss in the last game. Let's hopefully we turn it around as we take on the light infantry of the Fallschirmjäger. I'm still rocking the T-3485 Horde, and I have to say I like the list. It's pretty flexible, it's fun, you have hidden chicks, and it's not too punishing. Unlike this movie, it had a lot of problems. And on the other hand, we have the Fallschirmjäger, which sounds like this really awesome Hitler's super weapon. The Fallschirmjäger has been fully armed and operational with the maximum sauerkraut that the Allies cannot attempt to compensate with the Bratwursten. Or something like that. Nonetheless, we are playing Breakthrough, and I couldn't be happier. It could be on a better board. There's not much to hide in. He picks the adjoining sides on the left and south side of the board and on the right and north side of the board as his deployment areas. Unfortunately, this arrangement, no matter how I do it, is going to leave my Katyushas out in the open, and that just makes me really nervous since you can't dig in a truck. Nonetheless, he deploys fairly intelligently. He's afraid that I'm going to cause him a company rout. So what he ends up doing is taking a lot of the units, or at least machine gun groups that he has, and does not conf group them. He does not weapon attach them to anything. Instead, keeping more platoons on the board so I have more things to ground out to cause the company rout that I so deliciously desire, because he's actually kind of lacking in any kind of significant AT asset. Now here you can see me actually wiggling around those Katyushas, doing what I can to try to keep them out of line of sight of those 88s that are on the hill on the other side of them. And there's really no way I could do it. I ended up just kind of living with it, realizing that they're going to get shot at anyway, so I just ameliorate the losses and just keep them spread out and keep the visible ones to a minimum. Since there is no real place that I can send my Spetsnaz with an infiltration group, I don't even bother trying, and I leave the Spetsnaz in the building to hunker down and hopefully remove gone to ground from whatever they can see, but unfortunately I forgot that they can only do that within 16 inches. So they're just going to hunker down there and keep any kind of flanking maneuver off the T-34s crossing the open in the middle of the board. It is by all means something of a gambit. There are two 88s over there that are willing to open up and light up everything that they can see out there. So I send the IL-2s after them, hoping just to pin them in his turn, or if not, take one of them out. With that juicy bomb, it actually has quite a chance to actually dig them out of that fortified position. I have to admit, I really do like the IL-2. It is a fantastic platform, and I suggest in most lists that it was a good idea to always buy limited air support, because that one little die influences your opponent's maneuvering and where he's going to place all his stuff up. And in my case, since I have a lot of juicy targets that he might want to send an AT asset at, I need to split them up. Nonetheless, the IL-2 does not do any damage, doesn't even pin them. So I send the SU-122, since they are close to the machine gun company up there, which actually ends up being two different platoons. I move them up. Because of hidden chicks, the main gun can't really do anything, so they go in unescorted. Or at least they don't put any kind of suppressive fire down. But it doesn't matter, because they have nothing to really do anything with. They have a Panzerknacker team back there that can do some damage. I move them into assault. 2 tanks bog in the woods, just trying to make it in there, leaving 1 tank out there to do the actual swing. He swings, he misses, he motivates to counterattack back, then he eventually ropes in the other tank, and I manage to kill him. Then, in the process of trying to reconsolidate, the last tank bogs, and then I decide, I don't know, I don't really want to move the other tank, leaving 3 out of 4 of the tanks bogged in the woods on the first assault. Oh, that's just horrible. Now, my buddy has a lot of targets to choose from. He has 2 artillery batteries here, a Nebelwerfer battery and the howitzer battery in the back, and he's going to bring up the Martyrs and the 88s up there into that whole swarm of T-34s and try to get as much shots as humanly possible off on them. And as he does, he begins raining fire down on them. It's mostly ineffective. He doesn't do much damage except for kill one tank, while the Martyrs open up at range and manages to kill, I do believe, another and bail another. The 88s even get in on the action and manage to kill another tank. It's looking kind of grim. We lost 4 tanks in the charge, bailed another one, but thankfully Dedov's out there to make sure that he keeps his Soviet patriotismo in line with what we're trying to do. My objective here is to swing wide. I don't want to go through the AT guns and charge them and the Martyrs and all that. That might be the most direct route to one of his objectives, but instead I am going to swing wide. But he realizes what's up. He sends the Panzerknacker team forward against my tank. He swings. I do believe he misses, but because I fail motivation, the stuck tank, the only working tank, flees, and because there are several other tanks around there that it can't fight because they are all bogged, he immediately kills them all. One Panzerknacker team swings, misses, kills 3 tanks, and makes 1 rout. Oh, that's gotta hurt. His artillery's not doing much at this point, but, or at least it's not as effective as he'd like, but man, that Panzerknacker team is probably going to get all kinds of medals when he goes home. Dedov successfully remounts every tank that he asks to, and the Tankovy moves forward, pursuing the wide swing around the woods. We're not going to deal much with the woods if we can. We're going to go for the Nebelwerfer battery that's just out of camera to the bottom left. IL-2s once again scream onto the field. I am still dedicating them against the 88 batteries that are dug in up there because I need to at least get some of them out of the way because they're going to take the most shots out of them, and I can always trade shots with the Martyrs, the T-34-85s, when I get a chance to do it. Right now, it's because of hidden chinks and range. There's just no reason to actually take the shot. Meanwhile, on the southwest end of the board, just outside of the camera shot, the Nebelwerfers take a heinous amount of fire from the Tankovy, softening them up for what is about to be the assault next turn, killing one of the tubes, but not successfully taking out the entire battery. Meanwhile, the IL-2s do manage to take effective shots against the 88s, taking one of them out of the game completely and bailing one of the Martyrs. In a smart move, the German player decides to pull the Nebelwerfers off the board. Since they're right on the edge, goes ahead and pulls them off, keeps me from being able to assault them and claiming another platoon kill. That's kind of bittersweet. However, in his bloodlust with the Martyrs to try to close in a flank on my tanks on the south side of the board, he realizes that he just got real close to those Spetsnaz and decides to go ahead and move them out just a little so I at least don't have to assault from cover, which would have been fairly disastrous for those things. He pulls them back out just barely outside of range, while the Tankovy is left with nothing to kill. They're out there in the middle of nowhere as the turns grind on. Nonetheless, I'm not satisfied with just letting them go. I get a little bit of a bloodlust, so to speak, and I turn around. They still have an MG stand in there, which, you know, that's real mission critical, right? There's some foreshadowing for you. So I turn the tanks over and I begin to shoot them up. I have 2 targets out there. One of them is the observer for the howitzer battery that I send the CIC after, but I send everyone else against that MG team out there because I want to get another platoon kill. Meanwhile, the Spetsnaz open up. They get out of their foxholes, move out into the open to assault them, and then they just decide, nah, we don't want to assault those tanks. Hey, Yuri, let's go back home. There's hot vodka or something. And that leaves me horribly disappointed. On the other side, the T-34s mount up. They're going to move in, but they bog. They kill the team, cause a rout, make every stand in there flee the woods, but 4 out of the 5 tanks bog. mean, my dismay is it's pretty harsh. Right now, all his infantry out there in the open, except for the ones in the very north, are actually not even dug in. They've been trying to dig in for a while. I just need to send the tanks over there to do something with them. Nonetheless, the martyrs turn around, open up with their AA machine guns, dust off some of the Spetsnaz that decided to walk out into the open, and then decides to countercharge them, wiping out the rest of the Spetsnaz and causing them to flee the board, leaving the Katyushas completely open and with no defensive assets. It's the beginning of Soviet turn, and I get reserves! The tanks come in! They're on the side of the board that they need to be. They just have to roll over there to the undug infantry and win, but my buddy points out that there's a problem. I should have owed him a morale check for that tank unit that got bogged in the woods, because now there are more bogged and bailed tanks than there are living tanks. And he's right, so I go ahead and make the morale check for him, and wouldn't you know it, they fail it. Then the CIC gets roped in, and he fails it too. They flee the board. There are now more dead platoons than living platoons at that moment, and that causes a company morale check, giving the game to the Fallschirmjäger. Now, for those of you at home playing the Ouchies Batrep's drinking game, you might consider what happened in the last turn. And today's solace is brought to me by Blue Moon Brewing Company, Belgian White. It's okay. Go ahead and take a sip and consider. I said that I bogged a bunch of tanks. They moved into the woods, they bogged, they killed an MG team. Nobody took a hit at any point in time. Does that cause a platoon morale check? Because the answer is no, it does not. And that whole platoon should have stood its ground. They shouldn't have taken a morale check at all, and they could have immediately turned around and dealt with the martyrs or took on the infantry and won the game. This one hurts, even now that I should have known better. Nonetheless, this has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching. We had actually joked about it after the game. I'd realized the mistake almost 30 minutes after the game had ended and we'd packed everything up. And I happened to just crack open another Coke, sit down with the rule book and check it out. And there we were, dumbfounded when we both looked at it. It was a good game. Good game, and I look forward to fighting them again. This time remembering that a bog tank doesn't cause a morale check.
So you're going to assault him with the CIC?
Because I can't dedicate him to something else. So let's fight the CIC.
Yeah, guys, too much trouble. You shall die. My boss said we are going to kill you.
I know, the commander's like, kill that guy, okay? What are you doing? He's over there.
Hey. Fine, I'll take care of it.
Driver forward 300 meters, we'll run him over ourselves. Okay, that's CIC against